So, as you can see, we're in Egypt, in the middle of the desert. And at this point, you might be wondering, how the hell did they get there? Well, let us take you all the way back to the beginning of a hell of a story.
Hi everyone, we hope you're all doing well. This is our third video about our adventure in Egypt, and maybe you've watched the first two. There's a documentary about how we built hydroponic farms on rooftops in Cairo, and the vlog where we explore the country. Now for the story, we ended up with so much cool footage that did not make it into the cut, that we thought, you know what, let's make a third video, a less curated one, one that is a little bit more behind the scenes, just to share with you, all the emotions and stuff we went through while filming this. So this one is going to be about it. It's going to be kind of a journal where we share our experience filming the documentary and the vlog. So this video is going to be about what it was like to explore Egypt with a camera, what it was like to be running in the desert for 3 hours to film horses, and what it's like to discover Egypt from an insider's perspective, because, well, you didn't know it, Rami is Egyptian. So yeah, we hope you will learn something, and we hope you'll enjoy this video.
So the main reason why we were in Egypt in the first place was that we had won some funding to implement a project there, a hydroponic farms project, which is urban farms project, but less fancy word. But we didn't want to just do that. We thought, hey, it would be the perfect opportunity to try something new. And as creatives, as storytellers, we thought, let's make a documentary with everything that it implies in terms of pre-production, gear management, storytelling, and everything that comes into doing this. So when you tell a story, you want people who are going to watch or read that story to quickly understand where you are taking them. And this comes to the establisher. You need to establish the place, the location, the characters, and all of this. So what better iconic place than the pyramids to do that and to make people understand that the whole story is taking place in Egypt. So luckily my parents live very close to the pyramids, and we can actually see them from the neighborhood. And we were like, you know what? Let's make a time lapse of the sun rising behind the pyramids. So we wanted to do things well. We woke up at 4 a.m, we packed our cameras, we got there, we set up the tripod, we set up the camera, intervalometer on, and we wait. And we wait, and we wait a bit more. And at that point, it's 6 a.m. and it's already daylight, broad daylight, blue hour. But still, no sun in the background. This just didn't show up. And we were like, did we miss something? Maybe it was too dusty, we thought it might be the pollution, we just didn't see the sun because it's, not the sunrise as you would expect it. We thought, okay, let's pack it up and just go home and call it a day, call it a morning, whatever. And we're gonna come back another time, maybe the conditions are gonna be better. And at that point, we see it. Just a light dot in the sky rising right behind the pyramids, like the cliche sunrise that you might expect, except it was broad daylight. After a bit of color grading, some minor corrections, the shot was still pretty good, I think.
Then Rami's dad took us to the pyramids, and honestly, despite everything I've heard about the place, I did not expect to be so blown away by it. It's amazing, and it's incredible to see those things. First of all, the pyramids are so huge. You don't expect them to be that big. And when you see this, it's incredible to think that people built this without all the technology we have today. It's mind-blowing. Now, there is one thing that we really did not enjoy, and that can absolutely ruin your whole experience there. It's the animal welfare. So there is a huge problem with the way, especially horses and camels, are being treated. I mean, they're downright mistreated. And this is something that it's hard to watch and it's hard to put up with. So this kind of problems is obviously not exclusive to Egypt. We could talk about elephants. In Asia, we could talk about dolphins everywhere in the world where there shouldn't be dolphins. But It is a problem that Remy and I think is very important to be tackled. Now, to be responsible about this issue is not only to not pay for those horse rides, but also to be very, very careful with what you post on social media. Now think about it. You could totally think, okay, I'm not going to pay for this. I'm not going to fuel this business. What I'm gonna do is look for a private stable that cares for the horse as well, and I'm gonna book a horse ride to go to the pyramids and take a picture there. Great, so you get to the pyramids with a nice, well-cared for horse, you get your snap with the pyramids in the background, and you post that on the social media. But now, the people who see your post, they're gonna go for the obvious. So, if ever they go and visit Egypt and go to the pyramids, they're not gonna think, oh, okay, let's look for a stable and blah, blah, blah. They're gonna just go on site, and if someone follows them for like half an hour to sell them horse ride, because that's what they do there, they're just gonna go for it. And so you're still being part of the problem, even though you didn't directly fuel it. It's still not a reason to not visit the pyramids. The place is really amazing, it's beautiful, and there are many other ways to do it. So Remy and I decided to go by foot. And the cool thing about this was that we actually ended up taking the car and going further up elsewhere on the site, because there's the road that you can take that takes you basically around it. And this is something we could not have done if we were on horse or on camel. And we ended up being in a place that is less visited, with a perspective on the pyramids that is very different and that is not very often taken in photos. So we actually ended up with very original and cool photos that we really love.
So I told you before about establishing the location in which your story takes place. So what a better way to establish a location than to use drone shots? And drone shots, we like them so much because they add so much dimension to your work that we just didn't want to miss the opportunity to incorporate them in our videos. And at that point you might be wondering, well guys, how the hell did you get drone shots of Egypt? I thought it was illegal. And you're right to think it's illegal, because it is. At that time we thought maybe we can get a permit, but it turned out to be pretty damn hard to get, almost impossible, unless you are some kind of, super organization that is very well connected, or you know someone that works at a civil aviation. Forget about the permit. And don't think you can fool them, okay? Getting in Egypt with your drone is very hard and it's up to your luck, but getting out of Egypt with a drone can get you in serious trouble. Don't try this. So we were randomly scrolling on Instagram and we just ended up on YouTube at some point. So we just typed pyramids by drone. And we found a video made by a guy who filmed the pyramids, who had drone shots of Egypt, and we thought, wow, this guy can help us, and maybe he can just tell us how he got his permit, or we can just maybe do something with him. So at some point we found him on Instagram, we DM'd him, and the guy quickly replied. Like literally he said, wow, that's so cool, it would be an honor to have you guys, and come visit the studio, just come by, we're gonna hang out. And we're like, wow, this guy's really cool. While we were in Cairo, we took an evening to go there and meet him at his studio because he had invited us. And the guy turned out to be extremely cool. His studio was amazingly well designed, and it was the kind of thing that, you would dream of having one day. And he just sat with us. He went through all of his drone footage and he told us, hey guys, you can pick whatever you want. Just choose and you can have it. And we were like, really? And he was like, yeah. And we were like, really? And he was like, yeah. So that's how we got the drone shots.
Now, let's move on to the shooting of the documentary about the urban farms. What's interesting when you take part in projects abroad is that you really get to discover the place and the culture in a completely different way than as if you were going there as a tourist. So this was by far the biggest project that we were about to shoot, and making a comprehensive storyboard was definitely not an option. And it was not the goal anyway, since it was a documentary. We had no idea about what would be going on spot. So what we did to prepare was to basically prepared just a list of the rushes that we really needed to have in order to be able to put together a story that made sense. And then for the rest, we just tried to, I would try to have as many rushes and B-rolls as possible of everything that was happening. And so yeah, the script and the soundtrack were made afterwards when we came back from there, because then, you guess it, we had the whole story. And yeah, and I would say one of the most tricky or difficult parts were that, first of all, we had only one camera. So we were two people, we had one camera to film the whole thing. And there were so many things happening at every single moment. You know that everything that happens is just going to happen right now and it's not going to happen again. So sometimes you can ask the person to redo something just for the camera, but you can't do this all the time. And so it gets difficult sometimes to decide what you are going to use your camera for. You could be like, oh, there's an amazing sunset right now on the city, on the buildings, and why not make a time lapse of the sunset? But at the same time, I could be filming more of what's going on the roof and of the progress going on with the project. And so that's where I think the really important thing is to make sure that you take your time when getting your shots. Make sure the shots are clean, that as many of the shots possible are useful or usable, because sometimes when the atmosphere is a bit hectic, you tend to, try to get those crazy transitions, and in the end, you just end up with an SD card that's basically full of trash. Now, there's another thing that we kind of struggled with at the beginning, is that we were kind of stuck in the idea that every shot had to be perfect in order to make it into the cut. So we had to have, depth of field, a good lighting, and the shot had to be cinematic enough. And in the end, you realize that when you're documenting something, you're documenting a project, every action and every moment is better captured than perfect. So use everything you have at hand to do this. You don't have the camera, but there's maybe the GoPro that's sleeping in the bag. So take the GoPro and try to film those things that could just, those moments that could just slip away and not be captured. So now we're going to film the establisher. Say hi. We're going in the streets. Rami's going to roll it. And those moments in the end, the less staged moments, give some more authenticity to the piece in the end. People here are just like, I don't know what to say. And yeah, one last thing is always make sure that you back up your footage on one or even two hard drives at the end of every single day. Anything can happen, especially when you're filming in environments that are completely uncontrolled. Yeah, it's crazy to think that all your work sits on such a tiny device. You don't want to lose it all in a silly move or something. So make sure you back up your footage.
The realities of the field are often very surprising and unexpected, and sometimes you just need to go with the flow, right? But if there's one thing to take away from all of this, is that no matter what happens, in the end, it's always a collective effort, and it's something that you do together with your friends or together with someone. And in that case, it was very beautiful to see that everyone was kind of invested in the project. It was as much their vision and their project as it was ours. And it was cool because we saw the kids, they were coming and they were very interested by everything that was happening. They were interested by the project itself and how people were building the hydroponic farms, and they were helping with the seeding. But at the same time, they borrowed our cameras and they helped us with the shoot. So some of the GoPro footage that you see in the final video are actually shot by the kids that were with us on the rooftop. And it was very cool to see this atmosphere, And I think that that's the most beautiful part of any project. It's this collective project that you have, and in the end, this makes the memories, and this makes the best moments that we actually tried to translate into our documentary and film, and we tried to put an emphasis on the feelings that we had while filming this documentary and the smiles and, you know, these moments lived together. We were staying in Egypt for 3 weeks, and the project didn't take that long to complete, so we still had plenty of time to explore and spend time with the family. We booked a bus ticket to go to Hurghada, which is located along the Red Sea. We were looking for a stable where we could do some horse riding, and the stable, what was interesting is that they were rescuing abused horses that were coming from the touristic sites, such as the pyramids. So what they do with these animals is they take care of them, but those who are healthy enough and strong enough and young enough to still be ridden, they take them and they work with them at the riding school. So we really wanted to discover this place, and you might have seen the footage in the previous video that we made, but what you don't know is how we got that footage. So the place was really cool and the people there were actually very, very nice. So we got in, and right away you have the horses, you have the cats, dogs, donkeys, and what's cool is that all of them are kind of coming from brutal places where they were mistreated, and here they seemed to be very well taken care of. And we're like, well, we want to film actually our ride because we were riding that day. And we thought that it was a good idea to ride a horse with the Ronin S in hand, but it was not, especially for someone like me who had never done horse riding before. That was downright impossible. Even with the GoPro on a stick, it turned out to be pretty challenging. So we had to give up on the filming that day, but the ride was still pretty cool. Then we got back to the hotel, and at that point we were like, it's kind of sad, you know, because we could have had so many beautiful rushes and footage from that experience that we just called them back and we told them, hey guys, you know we've been there with you today, but is there a possibility that you could come back and pick us up? Because we really want to film, but this time we're not gonna ride. We are just going to film by foot. Yeah, you heard me well. We don't want to ride a horse. We just want to film. Yeah, it's okay. We can walk. No problem. That was silly us. So that's how we ended up filming in the desert for 3 hours, running behind horses that were far faster than we were, with the Ronin in hand. It was kind of, you know, boot camp. That's a filmmaking boot camp, actually. If you want to get in shape for a shoot, consider this. The gear was a mess after this. It was so windy and there was so much sand that we had to spend 2 hours cleaning everything just to get rid of that noise. That's brutal. But in the end, it was worth it. We had beautiful footage after this. It was very special. And we had the chance to spend a bit more time with the owners and learn about their initiative. And, you know, sometimes you need to put in some extra work and some extra effort, but it was a whole lot of fun. When we got back to Cairo, it was finally time to introduce Estelle to my family. We'd been together for 4 years already, and...
6 years.
What?
6 years.
What do you mean 6 years? We'd been together for 6 years already, and it was finally time to introduce her to my family, so we drove all the way to the countryside to just do that. And honestly, it was truly amazing. The first thing, from just a personal perspective, I think it was some of the best moments we had. The people are so welcoming there. I had almost forgotten this. It had been 5 years I hadn't been to Egypt, but remembering how people are generous and how cool they are when you just walk in the streets and everybody that is there tells you, hey, just come by and have a tea or have something to drink, and they send the kids to buy you something just for you, and just as an act of generosity. That's so cool.
Hey, how's your second day?
Still amazing. Still a mess. Am I red?
And from a filmmaker's perspective, these are the places that are so filled up with life. And everywhere that you point your camera, you have something that is so cinematic to film, that there is something special, like a special color, a special moment, a special scene, that you just end up with so many footage that is beautiful and special. And I think this is just the perfect playground for us as filmmakers. Oh, and yeah, we even asked my cousin if he could come and film a scene with us because he has a black camel, and we thought it would be super cool.
He wasn't your cousin, was he?
They're all my cousins.
If there is one thing to remember from all of this, I would say is really to go for it. If you have a project in mind, don't hesitate, go for it. You will never be fully prepared, never. If you wait for that moment, you'll never do it. And when you're filming a documentary, there's so many unexpected things happening all the time, and it's always gonna be like this. So it's really about handling the situations the way you can, and in the end, it's a whole lot of work, but it's a whole lot of fun too.
Well, it's time to wrap it up. We really hope you enjoyed this Egypt series. Don't forget that we have a podcast where we interview very inspiring people, from explorers, athletes, humanitarians, entrepreneurs. They share with us their insights, and these are really people who push the boundaries of what's possible means. So wherever you get your podcast, don't hesitate to go listen and leave us a review. It's always appreciated. Just tell us if this behind the scenes making of format is something that we should continue doing in the future. Anyways, we really liked sharing all of these insights and this experience with you, and we'll see you in the next videos. Peace.